Hi, welcome to the Mom of Many podcast. I'm Tammy and I'm your host. So, on today's episode, we're going to answer a viewer question that many of you have asked. I've gotten emails, I've gotten videos, and we'll be watching that and answering that. And that's going to be about phones, what every parent kind of wants to know about. So, following that, we have a new segment called Pranks with Tammy Ma. And so, I hope that you'll enjoy it. I promise you'll either judge me harshly and turn off this podcast never to see it again, or you will die laughing. So, watch till the end to find out. Without further ado, here's the video from a viewer. Let's listen and then we'll try to get to it.
Tammy Ma. Okay, my question is about cell phones. I know I know how you feel about cell phones and teenagers, but they sort of can't be avoided when you have kids who have to go to work or have a driver's license and drive. I want them to have a phone for safety reasons, and I want to be able to get in touch with them. I'm just curious, number one, about monitoring apps. Is there something that you recommend to monitor their activity? And then number two, like, if you did allow a teenager to have a phone, which I know you are opposed to, but if you had to, what are some rules that you would put in place for that teenager to be able to use a cell phone? Thanks so much.
Thank you. That was a great question. It encompassed several things, so I really enjoyed that question. So let me start by saying I'm really not against young people having phones. I'm actually not against it. I'm just against them having complete access to the world without any kind of monitoring or protection or oversight from parents. So that's kind of more my thing. I'm okay with them having a phone. So I just want them to be safe, I guess. That's my heart behind my thoughts. So one of my thoughts kind of has to do with when the kids have unmonitored cell phones. It's just you're allowing the whole world to come into your child's life, and you're allowing unfiltered garbage just into their hearts, their minds, their brains, their thoughts, and that's why I'm against it. So you wouldn't allow your children to hang out at a mall all day without any parental oversight, right? Just because they like it, just because their friends are doing it, you wouldn't want that. You would want to know who's speaking into your kids' lives and what's happening and what they're listening to, what they're watching, how they're spending their time. That would be important. So, um, I guess that's kind of my heart behind it. So I saw a documentary, Childhood 2.0, and I just want to recommend it to you guys right now if you haven't had a chance to watch it. It's called Childhood 2.0. You can find it on YouTube, and it just kind of talks a lot about the dangers of social media and what we don't know about our kids' lives. I was at a high school recently, kind of sharing, and I asked one group of kids. I said, I noticed that they were asking me the differences between Indian teenagers and American teenagers, and I said I think that American teenagers tend to struggle a lot more with anxiety and depression and suicidal ideation, and they said, "Oh, that's true." And I said, "Why do you think that is?" And like there was a resounding answer was social media. There's too much information coming at us from all different directions. It's overwhelming, and that's why we struggle. And so even teenagers can see that about their own selves. And so I think we parents need to kind of open our eyes a little bit. I guess I'm okay with kids having smartphones. Um, what I'm not okay with is no parental oversight. I'm not okay with parents saying it's just too much. It's just too hard to keep track of. I just hope for the best. And they kind of turn the other way, or they're kind of closed. Their eyes are closed, and they just don't want to deal with it. So, God's entrusted us with our kids, and so it's our job to guide them, protect them, teach them, disciple them through this digital age that we're living in. Right? What does that mean? It means we have to educate ourselves. We have to be educated. We have to be able to disciple them well. We have to know our stuff, and so I may not be a natural tech savvy person, but that's no excuse. I've got to get in there. I've got to watch the videos. I've got to educate myself. I've got to know what's going on, know all the different shortcuts and secrets and wraparounds. And I'm still, even if I spend time educating myself, I'm not going to be there 100%, but at least my eyes aren't closed in parenting. So I do feel like we're supposed to research and really find out more. And so that's one thing you can do is watch some documentaries. That's one. There's probably actually many, many more. Um, so for the sake of this talk, let's assume we're all on the same page. I'm assuming, and I know the one that called in, and she's on the same page for sure. Um, we know that we're worried about our kids' mental health. We're worried about about social media. We know that they shouldn't have complete access to all that stuff. We get it, but and we even know about some of the inherent dangers of cell phones and inherent dangers of addiction and um, you know, people taking advantage of our kids and exploiting them and all those things. Let's say we know all that. So how do we go forward? Um, the biggest argument I've had with parents saying, I want my child to have a phone because I want them to keep in touch. Now, right now, I'm not thinking of 16-year-olds driving. I'm thinking of 13-year-olds. And they say, I want my child to be able to get in touch with me. I want them to know where they are. I want to be able to see them on my phone, like track them where they are. And so, okay, if that's what you want, that's totally fine. They don't need a smartphone for that. There's Gab watches. There's different kinds of watches that you can get that allows them to be in touch with 5 people that the parent chooses for them to be in touch with, period. And it's safe and it allows, the parents to kind of keep up with them. If that's really what you want, your child to be in touch and be safe and know where they are, then there's all kinds of watches for that. There's also Gab phones and kids' phones that don't have internet on them, but they have access to different things like that, tracking and keeping in touch with mom and dad, texting 5 people. They've got maybe some music on it, maybe a clock, you know, a drawing app, whatever. There are phones that help you keep in touch with your child, and also be able to kind of know what's going on with them. So they don't necessarily need an iPhone for all that. So let me. I'm just going to get a little technical with you guys because you asked me about apps that I'm monitoring. So I'll kind of do that right now. I'll kind of go through that. Um, so I've done a lot of research on this, and I've had both Android phones, and I've also had a Bark phone for my children. I've also had Custodio, and I want to tell you that right now, the worst thing you can do for your child is to give them an iPhone. I'm begging you, parents, please, if they have one, stop. I don't care if you have to take a loan out, sell them, do whatever you need to do, get Android phones. Um, iPhones are so easy to work around. Kids can work around. They can turn off parental protection, screen time. They can go off anything, Family Link. They can break it all. It's a matter. They can literally ask their friends, "How do you do this?" And in 3 steps, they've circumvented all of your protection. And so there's Bark and Custodio are 2 of the biggest well-known parenting monitoring apps, and I love both of them. But I do not love them for iPhones. They do not work very well. And it's not their fault. It's iPhone is so secure, which is one of the things we love iPhones for. But it's so secure and so created in such a way that it's extremely easy to bypass the parental VPNs, virtual private networks. So it's literally very easy for them to bypass. So do your own research if you want to, but if you want to listen to somebody who's done some research, I'm telling you right now, throw those iPhones away. And I love my iPhone, and I would love for my child to have an iPhone, but it's not worth it to me. And so that's my first point. If you don't believe me, go read about it. And so there's a Facebook page that I love. I think it's called, oh heavens, I think I don't know if I wrote it down, but hopefully I did. Parenting in a Tech World. Parenting in a Tech World. And so it's been really helpful to me. And there's a lot of easy solutions to problems when trying to help disciple your child through the digital age, I guess. So one of my first things I would say is make sure that you have, if you can, get an Android phone or get a Bark phone or get a Gab phone. So all those things allow you to kind of like, you can monitor your kids' text. It's not like you can read their text unless, I mean, you can always take their phone and read them, but they can't delete text. They can't delete pictures. They have to have approval of any contacts they add. They can't add apps. They can't delete apps. They can't, unless they have permission from you. You can set the time limit of how much time you want them to do each day, times to go off at night and to lock up. You can keep certain things open and certain things closed. You can block social media. There is no workarounds. I'm telling you, the most tech savvy kid in the world is not going to be able to break a Bark phone. So I would suggest getting something like a Bark phone, or getting or putting Bark software or Custodio software um, onto your child's Android phones. So all of my kids, we have Custodio for every single one of them, except for the one in the U.S. where she has Bark. She actually has a Bark phone. I stand by it. I love it. I love the way that we're able to monitor and protect and keep track of. And it's really, really, really challenging to for them to, I guess, go around those things. So that's my first thing. Um, I think that if your kids are older than 15 or 16, you might move into maybe not a Bark phone, maybe you go a step above, just an Android phone. Um, Custodio works really well for those. Bark works really well for those. They all have free trials. You can check it out and see if you like it. I will say this: there is a learning curve. So it's not like you're just going to stick it on your phone and your kid's instantly protected. You've got to go through, watch a couple of videos, spend half an hour educating yourself. Your child's worth it. Um, I don't want to spend all my time here talking about the dangers of social media, or the dangers of having a cell phone, or the dangers of having internet, or child predators, or addictions, or porn, or all those things. I'm assuming we're all on the same page with that. We want to protect our kids. Um, I will let you know this: there is a direct link between anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation, and social media. And so if you're on the fence about social media, I would suggest you get off the fence and you get all the way over here on this side and say, not yet. Let your kids grow, let them learn, let them become who they're supposed to be without that influence, if you can. If you want to introduce it, I'm a big fan of introducing it around the age of 17 and then walking them through that year. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about how this is, and just walking them through, and a lot of conversations, a lot of positive conversations, a lot of openness, a lot of still guidelines, but yet maybe a little bit more slack, a little bit more loose, and yet lots of more conversation. But when your child is 12 or 13, absolutely not. 14, no way. 15, forget about it. So that's my heart. That's my thoughts. And I have educated myself, and so I'm not. This isn't just a visceral response that I have. Oh no, I hate social media. Nothing like that. I've seen the evidence. I've seen the research. I've read it myself, and I'm 100% convinced it's one of the biggest, most harmful things that we can do that we do for our kids, is letting them have social media when they're too young. Snapchat, Instagram, Discord, you name it. There's not really a lot of positive to any of it at this point. I actually love social media. I love my Instagram, but I'm not a 15-year-old developing child who's trying to figure out who she is, right? So again, it's much easier to hand your child a phone and hope for the best, but we're meant to do the hard stuff. We're meant to protect our kids, have conversations, talk about boundaries, give them limits. I mean, you give them guardrails in life. You would never, you know, let your kids go play near the cliff without there being a guardrail there. So why would you give them a phone without a guardrail? It doesn't make any sense to me. Um, I know that one of the questions I had, or on that Facebook page, there's sometimes you'll see different people comment different things, and when you read that page, your mind is gonna be blown of some of the problems that these parents have encountered with their kids, and you're gonna be like, "What? How is that even possible?" But it happens all the time, and so one of the comments that I hear is, "Oh, my child is so upset with me, and I've tried to limit their phone usage. I've tried to limit their social media, but they keep trying to download it. They keep trying to work around it." And they say things like that. And, "Oh, my daughter won't talk to me because I took her phone away for a week, and she's so upset, and I don't know what to do. I don't know if should I give it back to her. She's really upset with me." And I'm just like, "Oh my goodness, no, you shouldn't give it back to her. She needs to feel the pain." So, um, so let me give an example. When your child is 18 months old, did you put them in a car seat? Yes or no? You did. Okay. Why? Because it was law, because it was to protect them, make sure they don't get hurt. If there's an accident, make sure they're secure and safe in their seat, right? So when they cried and threw a fit, did you say, "Oh my goodness, she's crying. Take her out of the car seat. She doesn't like it." Or did you make her stay in it anyway? And so I know that hopefully most of you said we made them stay in it anyway. We made them stay in the car seat. We knew that was for their own good. So this is the same thing, guys, except instead of an 18-month-old, it's a 15-year-old. and she might be upset. She might be throwing a fit. And she might be, that you're putting these guardrails around her, that you're putting the seatbelt on, that you're putting her in a car seat or whatever. But end of the day, it's for her own good. And I even on this video that I mentioned earlier called Childhood 2.0, there's kids saying that they wish their parents knew what was really happening on their phones, and they kept saying this point that I thought was really important. Um, it's not about if your child encounters this stuff; it's about when they're going to encounter it. So it's about setting them up for success. It's not about, well, my child would never do that. She's good. He's good. Oh, he's a good kid. Well, she's a great kid. That all might be true, but the internet is not great, and the other people are not great, and their friends may show them something. And so it's like educating them and understanding it's not about if, it's about when. And so kind of like doing whatever you can to set your child up for success. And so with that said, I really, really believe that you should invest in some monitoring apps and do whatever you can to make your children safe. And if you've already gone too far and you're regretting it, oh my goodness, my child's 15, I've already let them have Snapchat, and they're already on Snapchat and Insta, my 14-year-old's on Discord or whatever it might be. I'm like, take a step back and just say, hey, have a heart-to-heart with your child, have a heart-to-heart with your teen. Say, I think we did this too soon. I think we're going to have to back up a little bit. We're going to go slow. Just have a heart-to-heart, take a few steps back. They'll be frustrated and upset for a little while, but they'll be okay in the long run, and they'll be a lot healthier. So I thought I would close my time. Um, um, Again, I'm okay with phones. I'm not okay with social media at a young age. I am okay when they get a little older, letting them walk through it, introducing social media at 17 maybe, and walking them through it and helping them kind of like manage it all. But I'm a big advocate of protecting your kids in whatever means necessary. Not being a helicopter parent. You don't need to be over everything, but just being a smart parent. Just being a wise parent. Teach them, mentor them in this digital age, or the digital age will mentor them in ways you don't want it to. So I thought I'd close my time with just sharing the restrictions I have in my own 14-year-old, if that's okay. So right now I have her phone. It's a Bark phone. It's set to go off. It's off all the time. I mean, it's on bedtime rules, which is basically the clock and I think music. Well, not even music, actually. It's just the clock and notes in the Bible app. And so that's it. That's all that's on. And then it comes on at 4 to 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So she has an hour, basically. And it goes off again at 5. And then on weekends, it's open 9 to 5. And on holidays, it's open 9 to 5. And so the reason I have it open 9 to 5 or 9 to 6 on certain days is just that I don't want her getting addicted to it. I don't want her to have it at nighttime. I don't think it should be I think there should be a time like this is when it goes off. We're done with this stuff at a certain time. She has no social media on it at all. She has a few fun apps and a few things, but that's no social media whatsoever. She can't add anything without my permission. It comes to me and says, do you give your child permission? It comes to me on my phone. Do you give your child permission to have this app? And I investigate it and say yes or no accordingly. And then furthermore, she only gets, so on the weekend, it's open from 9 to 5 or 9 to 6. She only gets 2.5 to 3 hours a day period of having the phone open. And so she has to manage her own time bank. She has to think, if I use the phone straight from 9 to 12, it's off till 6 p.m. It's off till tomorrow. I don't get it till tomorrow because it goes off automatically. I set a timer on it. So she's only allowed to use it cumulatively for 3 hours a day, max on the weekends, and even less on weekdays. So this is to kind of help her self-regulate and not get super addicted. She's not allowed to take the phone upstairs to her bedroom. She has to have the phone in a public area. And even though her phone is totally safe, it's Bark, there's like nothing. It's still just a great habit. Just like there's no need to have your phone up in your room, at night. You read so many stories of these kids that are up till 3 or 4 a.m. on their phone with their friends, and their parents are none the wiser. So just trying to help her not to be obsessed. It's always unlocked to call me and a few other numbers for emergencies. She can call anytime she has an emergency. Tracking is always on. The bottom line is that we're just trying to be intentional. So we live in a digital age. It's complicated, but it does call for us to be digital parents and to be engaged, informed, educated, and aware. I get it. It's hard. If I can do Custodio and keep 11 kids safe on at a time, I'm certain that you can keep your kids safe too. If I can do it, you can do it. So um, I'll kind of close, I thought, just kind of sharing this is our tech contract. I know that it's going to be a little hard to see, but we're going to put it in the show notes. We'll make a copy of it or something like that. I'll give you a PDF of the same. It's a family tech contract, and it just has things that we've signed, and it says it's I will immediately answer a call from my parents or text. I will ask my parents before I download any apps on my phone. I will ask my parents before sharing any photos online. I will always tell an adult if anything online makes me nervous or afraid. I will leave my phone in the kitchen to charge at night. We added this one ourselves. Will not go on other sites. I don't know what she wrote. I won't go on other sites, even on my laptop, without permission. And it says, I will not add text or interact with anyone online that I don't know. I won't be mean, spread rumors, and make fun of people online. I will not make fake profiles or pretend to be someone else on the internet. By the way, every single kid that Automate knows does this. Make fake profiles or pretend to be somebody else on the internet. It's a bigger problem than you would even guess. I will not use my phone during school unless there's an emergency. I will not use my phone while I'm calling, texting, or social while I'm driving. I will not share my address, my phone number, or any personal information online. I will not take my phone upstairs without permission. That's our rule we added. I will not delete or hide anything I do online. That's also a rule that we added. And then I wrote, and then it says, I understand that my parents can take my phone away from me at any time. And I understand that having a phone is a responsibility that I will take seriously. She wrote, and we added this one, it's not my right, it's a gift. So I don't want her to feel entitled that she deserves a phone or she has to have a phone. It's a gift. And then we also wrote, breaking the trust equals losing phone. So, and then we both sign it. And so I'm going to put a copy of a PDF of that in the show notes, and you can kind of look at that. I hope this has been helpful to you. I hope that it's been enlightening. I know that most of us know all this stuff, that there's dangerous, but I want you to know, I guess the final thing I'd want you to know is do whatever you can to protect your kids online. Inform yourself, educate yourself, and get in there and do it. Your kids will be thankful, even if they don't show it to you immediately. It will be good for them. It is good for their hearts. I promise you. So, yeah, and if you do decide to try out Bark and you like it, I have a link in my show notes that you can kind of check it out with. And if you do like it, and you do end up getting it, if it is a good fit for your family, I get an Amazon gift card. So hopefully you'll like it. But even if you don't, there's Custodio that also works, and there's probably other stuff out there too. So that's it for now, and I hope you enjoyed the show. And feel free to ask me any questions. Write to me. I'm ready to help in any way I can. So that's it for now. Stay tuned for a prank from Tammy Ma. Welcome to the new segment, Tammy Ma's Pranks. And so I have been known from time to time to pull a prank on my kids. You know, I think that parents should be entertained, and that's a very high value that I have. And yes, you know, we love our kids, and it's awesome. But sometimes we just got to pull. And I have a lot of kids, so pranks were really. I got a lot of mileage out of the pranks that I pulled. So I'll tell you one that I pulled early, way back in the day. I think it was probably I don't even remember how long ago it was, but my oldest boys were probably right around the age of like maybe 8 and 9 and 10, 11. So one day a lot of times electricity would go out at our home, and so it would get dark, and a lot of times when it was out, it'd be out for an hour for 2 hours. So we would go out on the little veranda, and we'd gather around, me and the kids, and it would tell just stories, and we would sing songs. And one day, you know, sometimes we told scary stories. Yes, I did that. And so one day I decided to tell them a story, and it went something like this. I'm going to give you the short version because I don't want to scare you. No. But basically I told the kids about this creature, and it was called the Grither. And if you said his name 3 times in a row, it would come in the nighttime and suck your toes. And so they were like, what? And I described the creature as being tall and scary, and he would just come where anybody ever said his name 3 times in a row, that he would come. And I told a lot of like stories about it. I probably elaborated a ton. And so after I finished telling the story of this mythical creature called the Grither, I said, and so, you know, this is a true story, so it's okay because we're not saying it 3 times in a row, but like whatever you do, don't say it 3 times in a row. And so one of my boys, he was probably about, I don't know, 9 years old, maybe 10. And he said, I don't believe it. It's just a story. It's not true. And I just looked at him dead in the eyes and I said, if you don't believe it's true, then why don't you say his name 3 times? And he goes, I will. And I said, do it. I dare you. And then I backed away from him, acting like I was scared to get close to him when he did it. And the kids are like, don't do it. Don't do it. And so, and I was like, go ahead, see what happens. And he's like, Grither, Grither. And the kids are all going, no, no, And he goes, wait, 3 times in a row. And I said, see, you wouldn't do it. You didn't say it 3 times in a row. You're just trying to get out of it. I said, that's fine. I said, honestly, it's better to be safe than sorry. He said, this can't be a true story. There's no way this is true. And I said, well, I mean, you can try. And he goes, you're just teasing us. And I just looked at him and I said, then say it 3 times. He goes, I will. Grither, Grither, Grither. And the kids go, no, no. All these kids, no, why did you do that? And some of the boys were like, we sleep in the same room as him. That's not fair. I said, don't worry. He knows who said his name. And they're all like, this is terrible. And so the lights come back on eventually and they all go to bed. They all go to their different rooms and sleep. And I'm thinking, I got to follow through on my threat. And so I get one of my older boys. He was 11, the oldest one in the home. And I put him on my shoulders. And I just put him on my shoulders. And we get a giant blanket and put over him on his head all the way down to me, kind of draping over me. And it's dark. And we put white powder all over his face. And I get lipstick and I kind of draw like fangs. And he holds a flashlight, so it's just like shining on his head, and I'm 5'7", and that's added a couple extra feet to it, so it was like an 8-foot creature. And so I just go to the door of the boys' room where he was, and I just went, and they were like, "Who's that?" And I went, and they were just like, "Who is that?" So one of them kind of opens the door, and I go, "It's the Grither," and they go, "Jesus!" And they just scatter the room. They go everywhere. They're scattering. They're like, no, no, no. And I just went, who called my name? And they go, he did. And they all point to him. And he goes, no, no, no. Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. And of course, by this time, I'm laughing so hard, like the 11-year-old comes toppling off my shoulders. And the joke was over at that point. But yeah, so this has been a new segment called Tammy's Pranks, and I hope that you got a good laugh out of that, as we did. And I hope you'll pray for my kids who clearly need counseling and clearly need someone to help some kind of therapy to help process all this horrible things that I did when they were young. So that's it. See you next week.